Hi guys, this is video 2 in the purpose series, and the other one, number 1, I've explained and given a brief definition. It is how to get from point A to point B and how you get there, all interconnected to your own personal stuff, shall I call it like that. We all have a purpose, so that is kind of just a recap. Now, like I said in the first video, I'm going to break it out into different subcategories in terms of how I see things, at least at this point in time, on this thing called purpose. And I've tackled it a little bit like an onion, where it's got the core purpose and then it's got like different layers, and then eventually we get this thing called an onion. So this is going to be one of those layers, and it is what is the purpose of emotions? What does it do for us? How does it serve us? And my understanding at this point in time is simply emotions are there simply to be used as a guide to indicate and plot where we are in our lives in reference to other events, places, and statuses, if there ever such a word, statuses, to ourselves even. And I'm going to make reference here to the context series that I've also created a little while ago, which at this point in time I still need to upload it, but when you see the context video you will see how I explain the importance of context. And in a similar way, emotion, once taken in context of what's going on in our lives, it can be used as a guide, as a reference point. It's nothing more than that. It is a reference point to what's going on. So when things make us angry, the emotion of anger comes and it lets us know this is where we stand in relationship to that person, that event, that whatever the case might be. It kind of triggers something in our limbic system that says my beliefs and morals and values has been crossed, it's been severed, it's been violated in some way, and my reaction to it is anger or aggression or bitterness or appreciation or whatever the case might be. So the whole idea of emotion is simply that it makes it's only a guide. Now what I found out in life is when you start using said emotion to guide your life, it's a dangerous place, because emotions are very fluid, they're not stable. And when you're happy or angry, sad or depressed or whatever the case might be, when you're in a heightened state of emotion, the worst thing you can ever do is to make a decision. It's best to pause and reflect and give it a day or two to kind of come down to what is considered normal, whatever normal is for you, before you make said important decisions. Okay, so that's the purpose of emotions, at least one of the purposes. The other one is it helps us with interpersonal relationships. And what I mean by that, if you've got a loved one or a family member that you appreciate, you show kindness and love and care towards them, because it's a purpose of emotion. The other person then reads that emotion or that emotional response from you towards them, and the message they get is, oh, these people love me, they care for me, they are being kind and compassionate to me. Or the opposite is also true, of course. Crumbs, I've done something that has angered them, upset them. In England we use the word sneap. I don't know if it's used anywhere else in the world, but when you kind of wind people up to the point of offense, you know, it kind of puts people's noses out of joint, you know. And that emotional reaction in person A towards person B, the other person, person B, understands that, generally speaking, because your status quo has now changed somewhat to something else, and there's a recognition of it. So it helps with interpersonal relationships, particularly if it's positive. It kind of compresses and binds and builds and strengthens when you've got positive emotional reinforcers amongst all the other stuff that builds good relationships. On the other side is when you are negatively charged emotionally because of what's happened, it can break relationships apart. That might be a good thing, or it might be a temporary thing, depending on where that person sits in the relationship with you. So again, it's a guide with what's going on interpersonally. It can also act as a motivator, can't it? Consider when you are angry about stuff, and here I make reference to the anger series that I made even on this very field. When you are angry about something, it kind of spurs you on to do something, because something's been violated, and it kind of fuels your fire to put things right. If you love someone and they are ill or injured themselves, or something bad has happened to them that puts them in a place where they are now in need of a loving embrace or something, because of the love emotional status that you have towards them, it spurs you to do something for them. It acts as a motivator, right? And that, generally speaking, both positive and negative motivating emotions, can I call them that? It's to rebuild and restore relationships, and sometimes it is used to break them down. And I'm thinking specifically here about toxic relationships, one that I'm very familiar with. It breaks them down, and you bail yourself out of jail in that event. But the point here, it kind of brings a balance to your own mental state when you use emotionals correctly for relationship purposes. It's also an indicator to show you what the status is of said relationship. If you've got indifference towards someone, your behavior and attitude towards the emotional level of that relationship indicates indifference, anger, hatred, bitterness, hate, whatever the case might be, care, concern, love, compassion. It doesn't matter what the emotional reference is, but it indicates the relationship between you and me is here. It could be here, but it could also be down here somewhere. It's a reference point. My friend, that is my understanding at this point in time what the purpose of emotions is in our lives, and how it helps us to achieve a particular goal, and how we get there comes a bit later. If you like this video, all the YouTube admin, please share, subscribe, comment, hit the bell when you pick all when you hit the bell. Do apologize, but for now, this is Mark from Kairos Changeworks, and I'll speak to you soon.